My mom used to call me when anything went wrong. So when she sounded annoyed after I told her I felt sick, I remember thinking, wait, why would it feel embarrassing instead of serious?
My mom used to call me first whenever something went wrong in the family. Flat tire, overdue bill, Mara crying after another breakup. It was always, call Phina. She'll figure it out. And honestly, I liked being that person. I was the one who stayed late at hospitals, the one who answered at 2 in the morning, the one everybody trusted to keep things together when life got messy. So when I started feeling sick, I didn't think much of it at first. I remember standing in my kitchen one night, texting my sister with one hand while heating soup with the other, joking that I was probably dying because I couldn't stop shaking. She sent back laughing emojis and told me to drink water. Normal, easy, familiar. Then I looked down into the sink. And for a second, I genuinely couldn't understand why the water was turning red. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. I just stood there, staring at the sink while the soup bubbled over behind me. Then my stomach twisted again. Hard. I barely made it to the trash can before I threw up a second time. And this time, there was no confusion about what I was looking at. Thick, red streaks splattered against the plastic liner while my whole body started shaking. Not panic yet. More disbelief. Like my brain was still trying to file it under something normal. I remember grabbing paper towels and cleaning everything up before I even sat down. That was how I handled things. Quietly. Efficiently. Don't make it bigger than it needs to be. I texted Mara again. Okay, wait. I think something's actually wrong with me. She replied almost immediately. You probably Googled yourself into a panic again, LOL. Normally, I would have laughed. Instead, I lowered myself onto the kitchen floor because my legs suddenly felt weak. My apartment was tiny, but it had always felt comforting to me. Warm yellow lights, plants by the window, the old couch my cousin helped me carry upstairs when I moved in. It was the first place that had really felt like mine after years of helping everybody else stay afloat. And weirdly, sitting there on the cold tile that night, I kept waiting for somebody to shift into caretaker mode for me the way I always had for them. But nobody did. I called my mom a few minutes later. She answered distracted, her television loud in the background. Hey, baby. I think I need to go to a doctor. That got her attention for maybe half a second. What happened now? I explained the shaking, the nausea, the blood. There was a pause long enough that I thought maybe she was finally worried. Then she sighed. Phina, you work yourself up every time you don't feel good. I pressed my fingers against my forehead. Mom, I'm serious. You haven't been sleeping right either. Stress can make you throw up. Blood. I almost said it again, but suddenly I felt embarrassed for even bringing it up. That was the thing about my family. If they reacted calmly enough, eventually you started doubting your own reality too. By midnight, I'd thrown up 3 more times. I stopped turning the kitchen light on after the second trip because seeing the blood directly made me dizzy. Instead, I rinsed the sink in the dark and leaned against the counter, waiting for the room to steady itself. My phone buzzed once. A message from the family group chat. Mara had sent a photo of her kids eating ice cream in pajamas. My mother replied with heart emojis underneath. Nobody mentioned my calls. Nobody asked if I was okay. I typed out 3 different messages before finally sending, "I'm getting worse. Can somebody stay on the phone with me tonight?" The message showed seen almost immediately. Then nothing. I sat there listening to the refrigerator hum in the silence of my apartment, trying not to feel stupid for asking. And somewhere underneath the nausea, another feeling started creeping in. Something colder.
The realization that I might be completely alone in this. I barely slept that night. Every time I drifted off, I'd wake up nauseous again, with my heart pounding like I'd missed a step going downstairs. Around 4 in the morning, I gave up trying to rest and wrapped myself in a blanket on the couch instead. The apartment felt different when the sun started coming up. Less comforting, more empty. I checked my phone first thing, hoping somebody from my family had finally called while I was asleep. Maybe my mom had gotten worried overnight. Maybe Mara realized I wasn't joking. Nothing. Just a coupon email and a missed notification from my pharmacy app. I stared at the screen longer than I should have before locking it again. By 8, I forced myself into the shower because I still planned on going to work. Missing shifts made me anxious, and honestly, part of me thought staying busy would make me feel normal again. But halfway through brushing my teeth, dizziness hit so hard I had to grab the sink. My reflection looked wrong. My skin had this grayish tone under the bathroom lights, and there were dark circles under my eyes I didn't remember having a week ago. I texted my mom again anyway. Still really sick. Think I need someone with me today. No response.
She literally said she was throwing up blood, and nobody even asked if she was okay. That's the part that really changed everything.
At work, I tried to act normal. I smiled at customers, folded receipts, repeated the same greetings I'd said 1,000 times before. But everything felt delayed, like my body was moving half a second behind my brain. Around lunchtime, my coworker Tasha stopped beside the register and frowned at me. "Phina, are you okay?" "I'm fine." "You don't look fine." I laughed automatically. I think I caught some stomach thing. But even saying it out loud sounded weak. Tasha kept watching me while she stocked bags behind the counter. "Your hands are shaking." I shoved them into my hoodie pocket before she could see how bad it was. An hour later, I was helping a customer when that metallic taste hit my mouth again. Instantly, sharp and familiar. My stomach dropped. I muttered an apology and rushed toward the employee restroom, one hand pressed over my mouth the entire way. I barely made it into the stall before vomiting again. This time, there was more blood than before. A lot more. For a second, I just sat there, staring down between my shoes, breathing hard, my whole body cold. And suddenly, Tasha was outside the door. "Phina?" I wiped my mouth fast. "Yeah. Do you need me to call somebody?" The question should have been simple, but my brain stalled on it completely. Because who was I supposed to call? The people who'd ignored me all night? The people who already thought I was exaggerating? "I'm okay," I lied. There was a pause outside the stall. Then Tasha said quietly, "You don't sound okay." That almost broke me more than the pain did. After work, I sat in my car for nearly 20 minutes before turning the key. My chest felt tight. My hands tingled against the steering wheel. I opened my messages one more time and typed directly to Mara. "I'm throwing up blood again. I really think I need help." This time she answered quickly, but not the way I expected. "Please don't show up here scaring the kids if this is another anxiety thing." I read the message 3 times, then once more after that. And the strangest part was realizing nobody had actually asked how bad it was. Nobody had even asked how much blood there was. I kept staring at Mara's message long after the screen dimmed. The parking lot outside my apartment was almost empty by then, washed in that dull orange light from the street lamps. Normally, I would have gone upstairs immediately after work, microwaved leftovers, put on some stupid reality show, and tried to reset my brain before the next day. Instead, I stayed in the driver's seat, with my hands locked around the steering wheel, because something about going upstairs suddenly felt dangerous. Like if I was alone in that apartment tonight, something bad might across happen. My stomach cramped again, deep, heavy, different from before. I leaned forward against the wheel and tried to breathe through it while nausea rolled up my throat. Sweat prickled across the back of my neck, even though the air conditioner was blasting cold air directly at me. I grabbed my phone again, called Mom, straight to voicemail. I almost didn't leave a message, but hearing my own breathing in the silence made panic finally start creeping in around the edges. Mom, my voice sounded thin. I'm serious this time. I really don't think I should be alone. The second I hung up, shame hit me immediately, not because I was sick, because I sounded needy. That realization made me feel worse than the pain did. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed with a voice note from her. I played it on speaker. Phina, please stop frightening everybody. Mara says you've been messaging non-stop all day. If you're anxious, go to urgent care tomorrow, okay? People have work in the morning. I just sat there afterward, listening to the recording end. No concern, no questions, just irritation. And suddenly, memories started connecting themselves in ways I hadn't noticed before. Every migraine dismissed as stress. Every panic attack turned into a joke. Every time I got emotional and someone said, "Here she goes again." I'd spent years proving I wasn't dramatic to people who had already decided I was. Another wave hit hard enough to make me shove the car door open. I barely made it onto the pavement before vomiting beside the tire. Blood splashed across the concrete. A man walking his dog stopped dead on the sidewalk. "Oh my God," he said. "Are you okay?" I wiped my mouth fast, embarrassed before anything else. "Yeah, I'm fine." He looked horrified. "No, you're not. You need an ambulance." The scary part was that my first instinct was still to say no, to protect everyone else from inconvenience, to minimize it, even now. "I can drive," I muttered. He hesitated like he didn't believe I should be behind a wheel, and honestly, he was probably right. My vision kept blurring around the edges every time I stood upright too long. But I drove anyway. The roads were mostly empty, and I remember gripping the steering wheel so tightly my fingers hurt. Every red light felt endless. Every minute alone inside that car made the pressure in my chest worse. Halfway to the hospital, I called Mom one last time. She declined it immediately. Then a text appeared. "Keep us updated when you calm down." I actually laughed when I read it. Not because it was funny, because something inside me finally cracked. By the time I pulled into the ER parking lot, my hands were shaking so hard I dropped my keys between the seats twice trying to grab them. And when I walked through the emergency room doors, the woman at the front desk took one look at my shirt and stood up immediately. The waiting room blurred together after that. Bright lights, the smell of disinfectant, a baby crying somewhere across the room. Papers shoved into my hands while someone asked for my insurance card. I remember trying to answer questions while another cramp twisted through my stomach hard enough to make me bend forward in the chair. Then everything started moving fast. A nurse appeared beside me with a wheelchair. "How much blood have you vomited today?" "I don't know." "Are you dizzy?" "Yes."
Did someone drive you here? No. Her expression changed slightly at that. Not dramatic, just sharper. Like she was reassessing something. Within minutes, I was behind a curtain with monitors attached to my chest, while another nurse pushed cold IV fluids into my arm. My body felt heavy and numb at the same time. People kept asking versions of the same question. How long has this been happening? And every time I answered, their faces tightened a little more. A few weeks? You've been vomiting blood for weeks? Not every day. Did you see anyone before tonight? Urgent care? And they didn't send you to the ER? I didn't tell them everything. That part sounded pathetic once it left my mouth, because the truth was, I'd spent so much time convincing myself I was overreacting that I stopped saying things out loud completely. The ER doctor came in about an hour later, middle-aged, tired eyes, calm voice. At first, he spoke gently while reviewing my chart, but then he paused halfway through reading the scan results on the computer beside my bed. His entire posture changed. He looked back at me carefully. You came here alone? I nodded. Is there someone we should call? I hesitated too long before answering. My family knows I'm here. That wasn't really the same thing. The doctor pulled the stool closer to my bed. Phina, your blood count is dangerously low. The room suddenly felt very quiet. He explained there was significant internal bleeding connected to an untreated stomach condition that had likely been worsening for a while. The dizziness, the exhaustion, the shaking, none of it had been anxiety. My body had been trying to warn me for weeks. If you had waited much longer, he said carefully, this could have become life-threatening very quickly. I stared at the blanket over my legs while he talked. Partly because I was scared, but mostly because relief was crashing into me at the exact same time. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't dramatic. I wasn't making it up.
The doctor studied me for another second before asking quietly,
Did someone tell you this wasn't serious? My throat tightened instantly. No, I whispered automatically. But even saying it, I knew it wasn't true. Maybe nobody had used those exact words, but they'd taught me not to trust pain unless it inconvenienced someone else first. The doctor's voice softened. Who told you you were safe? That question hit harder than everything else combined, because lying there under fluorescent hospital lights, attached to machines with dried blood still on my sleeve, I realized something horrifying. The people I trusted most had watched me ask for help and decided I was still asking for too much. I stayed in the hospital for 3 days. The first night barely felt real. Nurses came in every hour checking monitors, drawing blood, adjusting medications. At some point after midnight, someone helped me into a hospital gown because there were stains on my shirt I hadn't even noticed anymore. Everything hurt. My stomach, my chest, even my arms from the IVs. But underneath all of that was another feeling I couldn't shake. Humiliation. Not from being sick, from realizing how long I'd begged people to care before I finally walked into that ER alone. The next morning, a specialist explained that the bleeding had likely been building for weeks, maybe longer. Stress had made it worse, but stress wasn't the cause. My body had been sending warning signs the entire time, signs I'd talked myself out of believing, because everyone around me had. A social worker visited later that afternoon after reading through my intake notes. At first, I thought it was standard procedure, until she pulled a chair beside the bed and asked gently, "Do you feel emotionally supported at home?" I opened my mouth to answer automatically. Of course. They love me. They're just overwhelmed. But nothing came out. Instead, my eyes filled with tears so fast it embarrassed me. The social worker handed me tissues quietly and waited. And sitting there in that hospital room, I realized something painful. I had spent years translating neglect into excuses because admitting the truth felt too cruel. My family wasn't confused about my pain. They were uncomfortable with it. There's a difference. Mom finally called that evening. Not panicked, not crying. Annoyed. You never told us it was that serious. I actually pulled the phone away from my ear for a second because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I did tell you. No, you said your stomach hurt. People throw up all the time, Phina. I was throwing up blood. Silence. Then, somehow, she still sounded defensive. Well, you know how you get sometimes. That sentence changed something permanently inside me. Because even now, even after hospitalization, scans, specialists, IVs, they still needed me to be exaggerating. The alternative meant facing what they'd done. Mara came the next day after relatives started hearing pieces of the story. She walked into the room carrying coffee like she was visiting someone with the flu. The first thing she said was, "You made everybody sound horrible." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "We were scared," just damage control. I looked at her sitting there beside the hospital bed and suddenly saw our entire relationship clearly. Every family crisis I solved, every favor, every ride to the airport, every bill I covered quietly. I had been valuable when I was useful, not when I was vulnerable. That realization hurt more than the diagnosis did. After I was discharged, things became strangely quiet. No long emotional conversations, no dramatic apologies, mostly distance. And honestly, that silence told me everything. People who truly fear losing you don't disappear the second you stop serving a purpose. But other people showed up. Tasha brought groceries during recovery. My neighbor checked on me every evening for a week. Coworkers donated sick days so I wouldn't lose income while recovering. People I hadn't spent years sacrificing for somehow treated me with more care than the people who raised me. That messed with me for a long time. Months later, my mother still tried acting like the entire situation had been a misunderstanding. Mara avoided discussing it altogether. But I stopped protecting them, stopped rewriting reality to make everyone else comfortable. And once I did that, the truth became impossible to ignore. I hadn't almost died because nobody knew I was sick. I almost died because the people closest to me trained me to believe my suffering only mattered if they personally approved of it first. Sometimes I still hear the ER doctor's voice in my head.
Who told you you were safe? Back then, I didn't know how to answer him. Now I do. The people who needed me dependable more than they needed me alive. And walking away from them was the first real step toward healing.
It's weird how sometimes the people you will drop everything for can still make you question whether you are asking for too much. Have you ever realized that about someone too late?